And I'm hitting record now. Okay. So we are live. Welcome, everyone. This is Pastor Mike Matthews here for Limping For Jesus. This is our first new episode of the podcast called Topical Saturdays. My lovely wife Sarah is joining me. Gotta be honest, we don't know where these episodes are gonna go. We could start talking about the Bible to why the Golden Bachelor is creepy. I don't know.
I don't think the Golden Bachelor's creepy.
No, no, I'm just teasing. But we are going to go to topical issues. They could be biblical, they could be cultural, but we want to keep it light and fun too, because we want you to get to know Sarah and I as a couple. And all week I've been promoting this episode on Facebook. In the future, you guys can email us at limpingforjesus at gmail.com if you have any kind of questions that you want answered on the podcast. I'm pushing our Patreon this year. If you become a member, it's only $5 a month. You get to become a virtual producer on these episodes. What does that mean, Mike? That means we will read your name on air, and you get to pick a topic for us to talk about. And on our Patreon, you get access to a chat with Sarah and I. So you get to, and then in the future, I'm hoping that on our Patreon, Sarah and I will do Patreon-only videos a couple times a month where we get into more mature topics for couples, marriage, sex, stuff like that. All the fun rids, as the kids would say. So, okay.
Excuse my hair.
Yeah. So to start things off with today's podcast, I want to ask you an important 90s pop culture question.
Oh,
so
God.
Okay. So
I hate pop culture.
Yeah, I know.
Is it getting something that I actually know?
I grew up on TV and movies, and I don't think this one has started watching TV since like 2018.
No, I did watch TV as a kid, but I worked a lot from like age 16 to 35. So I don't know anything other than healthcare revenue cycle.
Yeah, okay. So my question to you, this is going back to the movie Titanic. Okay.
Did you talk about our topic? Or are you going to get there?
I'm going to get there. Okay. I'm going to get there. Sarah has the bag of our topics that she's going to
do you notice how I'm trying to deflect from the 90s pop culture?
Yeah, I do. I do see how you're trying to deflect from the question.
Yes, we are going to draw some topics that we have randomly. So there's a lot of there's biblical topics, there's life topics, there's fun topics, all kinds of topics. And we did it this way so that really like kind of, okay, Mike, how fast can you find a Bible verse? Or how fast can you think of an answer to this? So, and then I get to pull topics, and then he unfairly, I might add, very unfairly, he comes up with questions for me. But he knows, like, if you ever want to know an actor or a singer or a comedian or an influencer or some stranger in some podunk town in the middle of America and what they did 25 years ago and the lines they said in a show, he would know it by heart.
Well, because back when I was younger, I didn't get invited to a lot of parties, so I watched a lot of TV.
And he remembers it.
And my best friend and I, growing up, Christy, we went to every movie under the sun. But so here's my
friends too. I didn't live under a rock, but I don't remember.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So here's my
90s pop culture question.
Okay. Remember the movie Titanic?
I did see the movie.
Okay, do you remember the movie Titanic? Do you remember the end of the scene? The end of the movie where Rose is on the door and
Yes.
Jack is in the water.
Yes.
My burning question to you is, was there room on the door for Jack?
Totally.
Okay. Okay.
I was Rose, and that was you. I would have pulled you up onto the plank with me.
Let's be honest. If that was you and that was me, I would have died a long time ago because I can only swim with one arm. So I was dying. And did you know my wife is a cat lover. My wife is a cat lover. We have 8 cats. I love half of them. But there were
We have a
cats.
few very old and sick ones, and then we have got 2 kittens, but we won't have 8 cats forever.
We
I do, by the way, before he makes me out to be the crazy cat lady, I do recognize that 8 is a lot. Trust me, I feed them. He helps sometimes, but I feed them. I take care of them. I parent them. I spray them when they're fighting. I do their litter boxes. I clean up puke from the sick ones. So trust me, I know that 8 is a lot. But I got them as babies. I'm committed to them. I would never, ever give up on one of my animals. And so they are with me until they don't have a quality of life anymore.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the rapture, but I'd be okay with a cat rapture. Like, that's somehow biblical, where at one point, the sign of the end of times is God raptures all the cats.
See what I have to deal with? See what I have to deal with?
So anyways, back to my question is, so Jack, there was room. Do you know that question made the director so mad over the years? He paid Discovery to do a documentary on why Jack could not fit on the door. They had the Mythbusters crew reenact that scene to prove that it could not be done.
I think people have too much time on their hands.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was funny.
That's funny.
Okay, before we get to another serious topic, since we've been married and we're going up on 2 years in March, how has your TV watching changed since we've been married? Because I know how mine changed. I would never have watched Heartland. I would never have watched Heartland before. I would have thought it was too sappy. I watched more reality shows. Like, I would have never watched a show like The Circle on Netflix or anything like that. But I think we rub off on each other, our partners. And I mean, we don't always watch the same things. Like, I mean, for me, I know I got you to watch. I think our first year together, you watched WrestleMania with me. You started watching.
Wrestling would definitely be one of them.
Yeah.
Sports also. Like, I would never turn on the game. I'm just not someone that don't get me wrong. I've been to some hockey games. I've been to some baseball games in my life. And I do enjoy watching it. We would have Super Bowl parties. My grandpa was the captain of the football team at UCLA and in high school. So we watched football a lot when we were younger. But it's not something that I would turn on by myself. So, but if you have the game going, I'm not someone that, or you're wrestling, I'm not someone that says, hey, I don't want to watch that. I want to watch this. Like, obviously, you're in the middle of something, so I'm going to sit down and watch it with you. And I like to poke fun at wrestling and how the girls end up in certain positions, the boys don't.
Yeah.
And it's totally a marketing thing. So my business mind goes, oh, well, that's definitely marketing choreography. And then he hates me for it because I ruin it for him, because then he starts to pay attention and he's like, darn it, you're right. I would think that.
I mean, there's less, let's be honest, when it comes to pro wrestling, there's less cross shots of the dudes compared to the chicks.
I mean, they do have their shirts off, so I mean, the cleavage and stuff is and the shirt offs is equal right.
I see one of our cats coming behind you.
Oh yeah.
That's Gabby.
She's been trying to. That's Gabby. She's our old girl. And
Yeah.
I was taking a nap on the couch earlier, and she was curled up with me because I was warm. So I think she was cold. So that's probably what she's trying to do.
All right, babe. So let's see. Do you have your bag of topics?
I do have my bag of topics.
Okay. Are we gonna pick up? We're gonna pick out topic number one.
All right.
We're gonna pick out topic number one. I hope it's an easy one. Like, I hope it's not. Please don't be sex on like our first episode. Like,
Be like, what is this podcast about?
Yeah, I'm trying not to get Christian canceled. All pride.
Pride.
Wow, we could go 1,000 directions with pride. So let's go at it like this. First of all, pride individually. We can talk about that because the last couple of years, Tara and I have been talking a lot about how our ego is hurt because of expectations. I know that my life has vastly changed the last couple of years, and even though you don't like to admit it, we all battle pride.
Absolutely.
We all battle ego, and like from a godly perspective, there's a verse in the Bible that says, depending on the translation, it says, "Pride comes before the fall." Pride disrupts and destroys good things in our life. We all can fall for that, and the one thing that brought that to my mind is Sarah and I have been watching a lot of documentaries about religious cults lately. I don't know why, but we are. And
I would say we have a good mixed bag. That's something we watch a lot of different types of documentaries. We also watch a lot of fun stuff. So
I could watch murder. I could watch murder docs all day, every day. Like when I'm working on the podcast. When I'm working on the podcast, when I'm doing everything, like in my office, I have a true crime podcast going in the background. But the thing with these cults,
this man listens to a podcast, plays a video game, can hold a conversation, and watch something and retain all of it in his memory. You want to know what I do in between calls? If I don't have project work, or if it hits 4:30, I usually fall asleep.
Yeah.
So, like, 4 different people or things talking at me, I think my ADHD would go absolutely insane. So, yeah. That's between us. So, and he remembers it all.
Yeah.
And for some strange reason, it makes him. He likes to listen about how people are murdered. Me,
I love true crime.
Happier part of the world where I just pretend it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
and I stay in my house so that I don't get murdered. Just kidding.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about. Okay, so in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6, it says, "So humble yourself under the mighty power of God, and at the right time, He will lift you up in honor. Give all your worries and cares to God, for He cares about you." Pride takes that control from God's hands, and we try to do it ourselves.
Yeah,
that's the greatest definition of pride.
Well, we think we know more than God does, or we think that, oh, God put this dream on my heart, so it must be like this. And yes, God puts things in our hearts, but then we put expectations on others and ourselves and circumstances, and then we get frustrated when it doesn't happen our way instead of trusting God.
Yeah, I mean, when God put it on my heart at 24 to be a pastor, I knew it wasn't going to happen overnight. And it took a 10-year process for me to get my first pastorate. But in 2024, I would never tell you that I'd be sitting here with my wife doing a podcast. My map, my pride map had my ministry and my life looking di- totally different. Pastoring the church for 20 plus years. And here's the thing for me, like in today's Christianity, having a pastor stick at one church for more than a couple years, it's slim to none now. Pastors bounce around. So the fact that I'm between pastor jobs right now, it's not abnormal. It happens. And my pride and my ego was hurt because it's like, it's not happening the way I want to. But God is doing amazing. So what we have to do is just let God write our story. When we don't understand the chapter that we're in, we have to trust God that He's the great author and that He can
And
be.
by the way, if you're a pastor's wife and you have to have that conversation with your husband, it's you have to approach it very slowly.
Like, don't, I mean,
that could attack you.
We have a unique experience because when we had that conversation, I was coming off of
a very blunt person, so I mean, but I did approach it. Like when you say the word ego to somebody or pride or use those words, it can be offensive, and so you have to be very loving about it. And we should hold our spouses, our friends, our family, our sisters, whoever we have a close relationship with, and the right type of relationship. You don't want to use religion or even like truth as a weapon ever. So you really need to approach it with love. And I think that a lot of ladies in my pastor wives group would agree with me. Like pastors, they have such an amazing calling of really feeling the Holy Spirit and guiding people through things. And they can get really in that world in their heads. And so when you are approaching your pastor husband with, hey, I understand this is frustrating, but is this really what God wants? Because if it was, I think it would be happening right now. And if you're in a season of waiting and you have an expectation of what something should look like, that's ego and pride and not the Holy Spirit. So, but approaching that was hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, I've had friends like between pastor jobs for almost 9-10 years. And they had to go get a job at Home Depot or something. So I'm not saying that's going to happen all the time, but for me, when we had that conversation, this is pride, ego, and fear, all the same person, the same issue. Is I worked so hard and I trusted God, and I went on before I was a lead pastor, I went on so many interviews, so many pulpit supply, so many driving from church to church. I pastored one church for free for almost a year because I saw it as an opportunity to serve the Lord in these people. I didn't do it for money, clearly, because one guy decided to stop paying me. So for me, I think there was a part of me that at 38, 39, I pay my dues.
Yeah.
There's a cat that I like.
This is Georgia.
Georgia is one of the cats that we got from when we've been together.
She's 10 months old and her brother is 10 months old too. Huh. Okay, well,
I just want to say for you guys watching on TikTok, you're getting a behind the scenes look at our podcast. I won't address the camera that much, but I just want to let you guys know that you can watch the full episode of tonight's recording on Saturday at noon on our Limping for Jesus YouTube. All right. Thank you for being here tonight. Okay. So like I was saying, anger, fear, ego. So it was all new to me. And then we were at the beginning of a relationship when you had that conversation with me, because I had a lot of
a few times at a few different points. And where you were at in your healing and stuff, it either triggered a fight or it didn't.
Yeah, because there's a part of me, and I'll just be honest, like as a pastor, is that you want to make sure the buzz term that Christians throw around in dating and marriage is equally yoked. Are you equally yoked? Now, I'm just not meaning about faith. Like I would never dated Sarah if she never showed me any proof that she was serious in her following Jesus. She showed me all those cool things. So, but what I mean by equally yoked as a pastor, my fear and my pride was, is my wife on mission with me? Do you believe in our calling as a couple? And we had this incident, and I don't want to bring up this conversation because
there was a couple times I said, "Are you?"
Yeah, but the fact that when we were, before we were engaged and we were dating, there was a church that wanted to hire me as their pastor, but it was a couple hours away, and I was so focused on the fact that they wanted me that I didn't stop to ask, is this what God wants for us as a couple, me as a dad? Because if things were going to work out and we were going to get married, that pastoring this church would be like a 5-hour day for us, driving
in the car.
Yeah, so I was what's the word? Candidating. When I was candidating, I preached a couple times, but in that drive, and I was still living in my hometown, and Sarah was coming to pick me up, and then we would go to this church, and we got lost coming home one day, and in that getting lost, I realized, like, we got back to my apartment, and I said, that's not it for us. There was nothing wrong with the church. There was nothing wrong with the people. It just was not the right. It was not the right fit for me.
And that also went to our first fight. And so, like, we got through that fight. But then I also
Christian couples fight, guys. It happens.
We do. We don't fight often, but
no, we don't fight often.
Every fight we have had, it has been because I said something and you were triggered. And I think that's been. I mean, we haven't.
Yeah, well, the one thing I'm trying to do more of in this marriage is I'm trying to be more patient with you and myself. Trying to communicate more. I know I can be more patient with the cats. We have 4 outside cats that I absolutely hate, but that's because they look like horror creatures from the Black Lagoon.
They don't. They just have a lot of fur because they're in the winter. And they all have heated shelters on the porch for anybody that's going to say that we should help them. Trust me, we've spent money. They all have heated shelters. They have a heated water bowl. They get fed twice a day. Good food, too, by the way. They are taken care of, but they are feral.
Yeah. And well, I'm just using that as an example. There are our issues are not major. We communicate well. They're like.
So I want to go back to that church thing too. I want to make a point because. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That was my first time where I really felt the Holy Spirit and heard that you have to come to me more. Like not you come to me. I have to go to God with it, right? So
yeah.
When I say something to you, you get frustrated. I've just been in a very natural growing up. all of the things that I've been through, my previous relationship, you can back me into a corner, I'm going to fight my way out of it. And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to do that. I don't like how I feel when I'm that way. So I've really had to learn, and God's helped me a lot, and I've come a long way with it. Therapy also helps, guys, and sometimes anti-anxiety medication.
Well, part of my issue.
I went to God with it. I prayed about it, and I was like, okay, God, you have to help me with this. We cannot be in the car for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Every Sunday. And we also are not moving to Uniontown. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to live in Uniontown either. If you know the area, it is the minor leagues for Florida stories. So sometimes you'll get a cross-dressed ninja holding up Walgreens. That's a true story. You can Google it.
I also, it lovely people at that place. I mean, it was cool. We totally would pulpit supply there anytime. But like, I think that for me, that was even before we got engaged. We were talking about it, but we weren't engaged yet. And I was like, okay, if this is the way like our life goes, I just need to pray about it and kind of let Mike come up with his own choices, and then we could talk about it, because I realized me poo-pooing anything was a big trigger, so it couldn't come from me. It had to come from God.
Yeah, well, here's the thing that I know that dawned on me a couple of days ago is I can live in my head a little bit, and that I need to remember that you don't have the 20 plus years of backstory of serving the ministry with me. This is still new to you.
Well, it might be new, but I also know when I see a trigger, because obviously if I say something and there's a response to it, just like if someone says something to me and I overreact, like we all have triggers, and knowing our triggers and then knowing when we've triggered somebody else, you're like, whoa, then you have to take a step back yourself and then really try to understand where the other person's coming from. And sometimes you have to walk away for a minute and then be like, why did you have that reaction? What were the emotions behind that reaction? Because I don't know why you had that reaction. And I want to understand not only the reasoning you think you had that reaction, but also where your heart was at. Because I need to understand why you reacted to me in that way. And if you get pissed off and just be like, ugh, what a dick, and I'm not talking to you, and all of those things, and you get defensive, you can't communicate with your partner that way. If your partner reacts to you in a certain way, now in a healthy relationship, there are people that are not in the healthiest of relationships, and that's a whole different ballgame. But if you're in a decent relationship, you have to like take a step back from proving your point and say, okay, why did you react that way? And so we've had a couple playing back and forth how we reacted, and kind of do like a sports replay. And then I think it helps us like get to know each other and how we reacted. So you don't necessarily need 20 years of experience, but you do have to care enough to be like, hey, explain to me why you reacted that way.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, I'm so comfortable with you, and we haven't been married. We haven't even been married for 2 years, but it felt like we've been married for a long time because we just clicked. So it is very seldom. It is very seldom that in a person's life that you absolutely know why God put you on earth. And at 24 years old, I knew that I am here to pastor and help people trust God. He brings people to me who may never walk through the doors of a church, but they trust me and they'll come to the church. They
absolutely flock to you.
And so I am very protective of that gift. When I'm walking in the Spirit. So my thing is, where I am triggered sometimes is because other humans, other Christians, other pastors, other people that I've trusted has poo-pooed that calling. They have been barriers because they see a gift in me. They see that people love what God is doing in my life, and they try to snuff it out. So I have I have I have over I have done choices for other people because I'm a recovering people pleaser over God's best for my life. I have said no to cool church opportunities, preaching opportunities, book deals, job opportunities, and I feel like for me, in that going back to that, there's a couple arguments we have had. I don't want I'm gonna age myself, but I grew up on Tupac. I grew up on Tupac. Every man wants to know that their wife is their ride or die. Like, I'm gonna ride or die with you.
Mhm.
So for me, because
When your wife wants to know their husband's the same.
yeah. So with my past and being protective of that gift and not wanting to, I always want God's best, even when I'm not walking the perfect walk, because we all are imperfect. I want to be God. I want to be in God's will. Now, out of listening to my wife's wisdom in this season of life, a lot of amazing things has happened. Limping for Jesus would not be here if it wasn't for me listening to my wife and picking it back up.
It was so obvious to me, within a couple weeks of even knowing you, and you explaining why you started it and your healing thing, and why you picked it back up, and I was like, oh my God, this is why we're together, because we have so much experience in dealing with trauma, healing from trauma, getting through different things, and also understanding what it's like to be judged. You don't go through life with a disability and not be judged. You don't go through life as an overweight woman not knowing judgment and pre-misconceptions and all of that stuff, and still know that we have a good God and Jesus loves us, and to serve him and what that looks like, but also to be able to be kind and love others. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm also a recovering people pleaser, and I'm a little further along in the healing journey. And I truly love myself now and don't really care what people think of me anymore, which is a very powerful place to be. And I highly recommend it to everybody. It's great. It takes a lot of therapy and work. If you're willing to do it, you can get there. But I think that us having that experience, we are a good couple to be able to go into situations or talk to people that would be judged and to talk to them about God, because he's more of an extrovert, so he can evangelize and teach and stuff. I'm very much more of an introvert, where I can have, I hate small talk, hate it with a passion. I have to force myself to do it. It does not come naturally to me. And I'm a consultant in my professional career, so I have been told that I needed to be softer, and small talk helps. And I'm like, oh God, gag me. But
keep talking. I gotta take a pee break. Keep talking.
Okay, I'll keep it going for you. You're gonna see Mike come out of that door right there. That's his office. He's behind this wall. Wave to the camera, babe.
Hi guys. Hi guys. I'm 40. I gotta pee.
Don't fall. What was I saying? Oh, the small. Also, behind that white, behind his Jesus and all of the different words for Jesus and what things about Jesus, that tapestry that you see to the right of his chair is a curtain that is blocking a doorway that has some boxes and a shelf blocking it, which is right by the bathroom door. So that's why you kind of heard him echo. So anyways, I'm an introvert. I don't like small talk, but I do love having one-on-one conversations with people about life and deeper topics. And so you're going to see Mike running back to his office right there.
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming back.
So I have that. I also have a gift of discernment. That's my strongest gift. And so I can
I'm back.
I can discern a little bit more. Hi, welcome back.
I'm down on my asthma attack. Okay.
Do you have your I have an inhaler in my purse if you need one. You have your inhaler in there? Okay, take a deep breath. But anyways, I like the deeper one-on-one conversations and smaller group settings of people that I know. Crowds don't necessarily give me anxiety per se, but I don't need to be the center of attention in a crowd. Whereas Mike could get up on a stadium of 25,000 people and, do comedy, preach, whatever. He loves it. But with my discernment, I'm able to kind of say to him, hey, that person over there really needs a one-on-one, or that person really wants your attention. I can tell that they're not doing okay today. So that kind of stuff I kind of watch out for. So he sees the crowd. I mean, it's not that he doesn't see people one-on-one or have the discernment too, but it's kind of where I go first, whereas he kind of, he looks at the whole before he looks for the one, and I look for the one before I look for the whole. So we complement.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Like that got put into me. I gotta be honest. One of my advocacy mentors. For you guys that don't know, I have cerebral palsy. I spent many years going back to when I was 16 in what's known as the independent living movement. It is a disability rights movement, and my mentor who ran our organization, she had a metaphor where she goes, she's the kind of person that, she'll see someone drowning in the river, but she wants to go out to the dam to fix the real problem, the bigger problem with the hole in the dam. I think that got put into my programming a little bit because I was, like when you're a young man, you're looking for fights, you're looking for big causes. And I spent most of my teenage years in Harrisburg and Washington, D.C. protesting for disability rights. So I'm a big...
And I come from healthcare where you are literally in front of one person and helping them with whatever ailment they're doing. And then you have to do that and then running the whole business. So in my career, I started out as an aide right out of high school and wanted to be a nurse. And then I decided to go for a business degree and do the business side of healthcare. And I was operations management, scheduling, intake, doing all those things. And then I got into billing and I was really good at it. And I'm an introvert and I love introverted things. So it was behind the scenes. And so my reward was getting checks in the door when they weren't coming in. And so I got really good at it. And then I got into management, and then I got into being a director, and then I got into being a vice president. And as I went to each different level, I had to be coached, and I got a coach a couple of different times. When you go from being a frontliner to a manager, you're now managing the front line. And that's a little bit easier sometimes than going to a director level where then you're leading leaders. And so that really takes not looking at the detail and looking at the higher picture. When you get to a VP and an executive status, you really have to know the whole picture, right? And you have to know how it all goes. But you also have to be able to do individual stuff as an executive, because you need to be able to pinpoint to know resources to then apply. So you have to have a mix of both worlds. But as a person, as a human, as a Christian, and as a friend, and in relationships, I definitely like more one-on-one and more smaller group settings. And it also takes me a minute to kind of open up and trust, because I'm very observant before I put anything out there, which makes me a good pastor wife too, because I can just sit there quietly, and people take that as, sometimes they mistake it, especially being an overweight woman. sometimes they don't think we're intelligent. People don't think we're intelligent, or we have some kind of, I don't know. But I don't mind. I used to, I have fought like hell my whole life to not be underestimated. And now that I'm older, I realize there's power in being underestimated. Let yourself be underestimated and just sit there and observe. And you'll learn a lot about
in church cultures. I'm not saying this is correct or the right mindset, but when they hire a pastor, they're really hoping that they're getting the wife as a free employee too. And they're hoping that the pastor's wife can either lead children ministry or play piano and that's just not your wheelhouse. And
no.
but
I'm
you
an
can do
executive
other.
consultant. I'm a consultant that works with executives in healthcare settings and most in the financial sector of it, but some operations as well. And it is a very extremely mentally challenging job. We have to get in, know these companies, know their problems, understand their people, help them through solutions. And so I'm not, first of all, I don't know how to play the piano. I played the violin when I was a kid and drums, but not a piano player. And nursery, I'm sorry, but my weekends, I do enjoy going to church. But there was that video of that I posted on Facebook, and it was a thing of it was making fun of introverts at church. And so at the end, it was you're running out of the building. But I'm not that extreme. But
my son reads his. My son grew up. My son grew up in church. So when we were done with the church service, he wanted to run over to the house. The house was by the church, and I had to tell him, "Well, you got to be nice. Say hi and bye to people." And then, but he was like that video we saw. He wanted to be home playing Minecraft. My son is now 13. I don't even want to know what he does, but
I have to be very protective of my time to unwind, and I've come under scrutiny for not serving more or being involved in things. In my past life, 4 or 5 years, 6 years ago, before my first husband got sick, I did a lot more hospitality. I love serving with my friend Donna. We were on hospitality team. Donna's been a fantastic, phenomenal cook, and I helped her in the kitchen. We cooked. We did spaghetti fundraisers. We cooked and made things for funerals, weddings. We did all kinds of cooking and serving in that sense. So I did do some of that. And I also, at one point, I was into photography and doing some of that. So I would go around at church events and take photographs and just candid photos of people and the kids and enjoying the stuff that they'd use on social media. I've done some of that kind of stuff in my past, but I'm a very behind the scenes person, and I need to be able to do stuff from home, from a computer, from things. And now I serve in doing all the behind the scenes and financial, any of that stuff for Limping for Jesus. So I serve very behind the scenes. So I'm very excited to be able to do this weekly and us do this. But I'm a behind the scenes person also in my career. So if you don't know what healthcare revenue cycle management is, it's basically making sure that healthcare organizations get the money that they are expected to get reimbursed by insurance companies so that they can pay their clinicians and people can get healthcare. So it's a very important thing that I do. And so I have to be it's also the way that we pay our bills. So I have to be I have to have boundaries, and I have to be very protective of my time. And it's not that I don't want to serve God or that I'm not. I'm serving God by helping you with this ministry. And I'm also serving God by working and doing the best that I can and working and doing my career.
I think our generation, thankfully, whenever God opened the door for me to be on the pastoral staff again, there are churches that are more understanding of that, that the wife might not be there all the time, that she's serving she's making it. God's allowing her to have a job that helps us be able to, so I can be there to serve.
Right. I mean, when we were at the church we were at, for that time, I think there was, I might have missed one Sunday, but I really tried to be there to be supportive. And
but your dad was really sick and you were taking care of your dad.
Yeah.
So,
plus that. I really try. It's not that I try to make excuses by any reason, but there are circumstances, and I think that a lot of people, and especially some of the people that we talk about too, that they have these busy lives. And people that go to church every Sunday and they do their rituals and they have these things, if that's what you want to do and can do, that is fantastic. You're not going to see any judgment from me there, but just as I wouldn't judge you for the way you can do your life, you shouldn't judge other people either. I understand why you're accountable. Go ahead.
The mindset that the pastor and the pastor's wife has to be at every single church event is a generation behind us. I think with inflation, with the way the culture is,
smaller churches, it makes sense because you don't have a big team. But if you have a team of people that I don't know, church just needs to be done a little bit differently, and pastors are humans too. And
the one church that I was
know this, but pastoring doesn't pay a lot unless you're in a bigger church that gives you a salary of like $80,000 a year, which is great, but that's like the top 5%. So there's a lot of the wives in my groups that I'm in a couple of pastor wives groups. They work and they're exhausted.
It's a
lot of kids.
It's also about the culture of the church. That's my point.
True.
That if the church has a toxic culture, then they're going to have that type of people because in some church cultures, the congregation sees themselves as the boss, and the pastor and those around him are their employees too, and that is not okay. Because I was a part of a church for 8 years that was a multi-site, multi-campus church, and there was none of that unhealthy expectations on the wife. The wife attended church, but I couldn't tell you who she was. I couldn't tell it because they didn't put that unfair pressure on her because she did her time. She raised like 6 or 7 kids. When they were younger, she helped with the youth group and stuff like that. So culture matters in church. And so I think we beat that. I think
we got a pride a while ago.
You want to pick one more topic?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Okay, let's do it. Please don't be sex. Please don't be sex. This is our first episode of Topical Saturdays.
Years.
Yeah, I didn't tell you.
Maybe you get it out of the way.
Oh boy.
Okay. And dignity.
Dignity. Okay.
Dignity.
Yeah. Let's go to sex.
You want me to pick that?
No. Okay. So how can we take this? Okay. So
well, I work in healthcare, so what does dignity mean to you? I mean, like, my dad, when he had his heart attack and stroke last year, he lived in my living room because his house was not ready for him to be able to use a walker or a wheelchair. Our hospital bed, they had to move their queen bed or their king bed out and get my mom a twin bed and get my dad's area ready for him. And he was not going to a nursing home. Over my dead body was he going to a nursing home.
Yeah.
He was complex. If we had him in a nursing home, he would have died for sure. So my sister, my mom, and I, we together, and it was not the happiest of times because we were very on top of each other. We took shifts, and when it was our night shift, we slept on the couch because his hospital bed was in the living room, and we slept on the couch so we would be right by him. And for the first few months, he was in diapers. So talk about loss of dignity. Like if your kids are now changing your diapers, and it was hard. We did what we needed to do, and we treated him with compassion and did what we needed to do. Now, we kind of were fighting over each other because we're very different personalities.
Yeah.
But just thinking of him, and even being in having a hysterectomy a few years ago and having a complication, because I had a partial laparotomy, which means they had to cut my stomach open to take my uterus out because I had precancer and a big fibroid. So I had a wound of like a 4-inch incision on my stomach that started to leak. And so I had to go actually be reopened and have a wound vac put in. And I was in the hospital for a week when that happened because I had an infection that was tunneling upwards towards my heart. And I was at McGee, a women's hospital in Pittsburgh, which is UPMC, and a teaching hospital. And so I was wearing a gown, of course. And, you have 7 people come into your room and you're just, here it all is. But they treat you with dignity. You're a human being with rights, and you're just in this god-awful situation, and you just are like, oh my God, I'm exposed to the world. And that was in a literal sense, right? And how you feel. But that can be emotional. You can be emotionally vulnerable. You can be in a situation that's embarrassing. You can feel embarrassed about going through a divorce, about a bankruptcy, about losing a job, losing a house, a child that's an addiction, a child dying or committing suicide. There are so many things that we go through as human beings that we don't have any control over. And when someone is in the darkest hours of their life, and in a situation where it puts somebody else in a powerful place over them, whether it's they have more money or status or power, or they're the healthcare provider, or they're there to help them, or they're a volunteer, or they're a pastor. Treating people with dignity and respect is a different topic, but this is about dignity. At the core, when you go into these situations, this is a human being in a position of vulnerability, and you are a human being in a position of power if you are the person that is there to help them, or even if you just said, hi, how are you? And they started to cry and unleash.
Well,
treating them with dignity is to remind yourself when you're not the person at the bottom that this is a human being that is having a bad day, and you're a human being that can have the equally bad day. And you're going to want to treat them, number one, the way Jesus teaches us to treat people in that situation, but also how we would want to be treated. And that's with dignity. When you say with dignity, it's loving and kindness and encouragement and support. People, you don't want to people please it. You're not going in there to fix them. You're not going in there to take their burden off of them. But you can say, hey, I've been there too, or I'm so sorry. Is there anything that I can do? And a lot of people will say that. And people don't know what they need when they're in the bottom of their deep, dark hole. Maybe you give them a bottle of water, or you make a lasagna and take it over to their house, or you just are a helpful person without trying to fix. So that's treating someone with dignity. It's how you would want to be treated, and just giving kindness and support. And
well, it's also having understanding from a Christian worldview that everyone is made in the image of God, that every human being is fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
Like Psalm 119, verse 13 and 14 tells us. That helps you relate to people, even difficult people. Because difficult people show you their pain. They show you how they're hurting. Yeah. So treating someone treating someone as an image bearer of God should be the number one underlying baseline for dignity, because you think about someone with you think about someone with a physical disability or a cognitive disability, Down syndrome, whatever it may be. People want to judge you about your worth is based on what you can do. That's not what dignity is. It's who you are.
And I'll make this example too. So I'm an obvious overweight woman. I'm working on my health as we speak. Going to a primary care physician for a cough.
Yeah.
Doesn't warrant, oh, you should get gastric bypass. Oh, and then after your gastric bypass, you'll have loose skin, and then you can just have your skin removed, and you'll be a whole new person. Okay. I worked for 2 years in hospice. I know what protein calorie malnutrition is, and I know a lot of the complications that come along with that. But you don't know my background, and you don't know why I've chosen not to do that. So how about you treat me for the cough and ask me if I have any questions or bring up the concerns in a different way? So needless to say, there's been a couple of fired PCPs on my behalf, and I have one now that when I go in there, he says, how's your eating going? Like, is your appetite okay? You have anxiety. Is there anything that I can do for you? Hey, let's look at your labs. This one's up here. Okay, your blood pressure's a little elevated. How's the salt? And he'll ask me questions about my health and give me empowering choices naturally in occurring. If I were to go to him and say, hey, I'm really thinking about having surgery, he would then say, okay, let's talk about where your health is at and let's prepare for that. That's meeting someone where they're at in the sense of a physician to a patient relationship and saying, this is a person. Let's look at her holistically. She has wants and needs and desires. She also has whatever her educational or cultural background. Some cultures believe in certain things about health and some don't. Really treating the person with dignity is to know them, is to understand where they're coming from, you can share your opinion and share things, but really truly also giving them the respect and treating them with dignity to understand them. Because that's what all of us want. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, but we want to be understood. And when someone comes at us with their opinion or if it's a judgy way, especially I think the millennial generation is kind of sensitive to judgment. So to treat a millennial or anybody younger, it's really, they want to be understood first. And then there's ways to explain things and to bring them to places or to at least give them the opportunity and the option to make the choice. Instead of trying to shove it down their throat and say, this is what you need to do for yourself. You really should, you're this much overweight, you should really have a gastric bypass. That's end all be all. Well, I have a lot of experience in healthcare, and trust me, I've looked into it, and it's not something that I'm making a choice to do.
Yeah, well, a couple years ago, when I got hired at the church I was pastoring, one of the elders said, you have a long history of preaching to people and drug and alcohol recovery. Would those type of people come here if we hire you? And I said, I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the type of people Jesus has come for,
yeah.
And we are that type of people. He comes for the outcast, the broken, the people who know they need God. And here's the thing: people know, in church settings, people know and can pick up on it really quick if you are a church that is loving or not. So yes, several people
churches before I found
several people.
Yes.
Several people did attend that church at first from the recovery community. They stopped coming, not because of me, but because of the attitude of the church. They felt judged. They felt they stuck out like a light bulb. They like I had someone message me saying, Mike, I love you, but I can't go to that church because I'm black and I feel judged. for being in recovery for my race. Like they felt that. So if you are a Christian and you're watching this podcast and you're in church leadership or you just attend church, there's a good topic to end the episode on, because
I was just gonna ask if you wanted to do one more, but
we could do one more. But I'm just saying dignity is important. God does not care about what people are wearing, what they look like. He's after change hearts, not change shirts. So let's do one more. We're at an hour. Let's do one more topic. Let's do one more.
And we'll be quick.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I want to get back to watching Below Deck. Sorry, guys.
Oh, this is going to be fast and simple. What was our first job?
My first job. Oh, I don't want to count McDonald's because I was there for an hour. So I'll tell this story real quick, so I got a job at McDonald's. I came to my first day, and the guy took me to the bathroom and showed me a poopy bathroom, and said, "Well, this is what you're going to be doing when you work here." And I said, "What do you mean? You mean like because I'm a new guy, or we take turns?" He goes, "No, you get all the retard jobs." And I said, "What?" I said, "I'll be right back." So I go out front to a payphone. Yes, a payphone. I'm dating myself. I didn't have change, so I came back in wanting to throat punch the guy, but I said, "Hey, do you have a quarter I can borrow?" He gave me a quarter. I called my best friend Gary at the time, and I said, "Hey, man, you gotta get me the heck out of this. I'm not." And I was like, "I'm not working. I'm not being the token guy with CP at this McDonald's." So I literally worked at McDonald's for an hour, and my friend came and got me. But my first real job was right out of college at 24 years old at what's called Tri-County Patriots for Independent Living. It is now called Voices for Independent Living. And I was what's known as an independent living specialist. And we advocated for people with disabilities. And here's what my boss told me at the time. So they hired about 5 of us. And out of those 5 people, I'm the only one that stuck it out. And he told me, "I was trying to find reasons to fire you because I was putting you in the fire pan because I wanted to know you had what it took to be an advocate." That job was one of those opportunities where it was the first job to give someone like me an opportunity to work, because a lot of people with disabilities, we don't get that teenage experience of your first jobs. It's hard to get hired. So I started off in that job as a frontline independent living specialist, and I worked my way up to program supervisor. But I'm grateful for that job. I mean, there were many times. I mean, if you ask my ex-wife, I wasn't, because I complained every Sunday. But but it was a frustrating job too. But I was grateful because because we all had disabilities, and that was a common denominator. You got to really know people. You got to know their talents, and it was a job where people like me got to become supervisors and bosses and directors. It helped us outside of that setting, because it gave me that administrative experience that translated into me helping to lead churches in other fields. So that was my first real job. Like I was so grateful, because prior to that, I went on a job interview that literally waited me out for 4 hours. They saw me in the bin. I said, "Hi, I'm here to interview with so and so." They told me to go wait in the waiting room and didn't see me for 3 hours.
Oh, God.
And I checked on. I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And so they gave me the interview. And this was 2006. So I didn't really have my full understanding of the ADA. I didn't know what my rights were, and I didn't know they were not allowed to ask me about my CP. But that was the first question the woman asked me and said, we noticed that you had a disability, and then she started asking me all these questions. And it was thankfully I didn't get this job looking back on it, because I think it would have changed my life. But because in a bad way, because it was at a youth home for troubled youth. And one of the questions was, can you take a punch? And I said, I guess we're going to find out if you hire me. They did not hire me, thank God. They are now shut down because of many scandals and abuse accusations. So God was really protecting
I wonder
me.
why.
Yeah. But the thing is, my first job really gave me an opportunity to show who Michael was and my gifts. And it turned out into a 7-8 year career, and then that spun off into working at another organization at supervisor level. I would have never ever got that far, and I don't even think I would became a pastor without those 8 years on that first job. My first job was amazing. I lucked out because I kept getting promotions without degrees. And then I later went on to college and got 2 degrees, but I didn't go back to college because they kept promoting me. So I'll always
That's kind of why I went to college later too. That kept getting promotions.
Yeah.
But my promotions usually were like, I get laid off and then I get a new job that was higher. My first job, I started working when I was 12 as a babysitter. There was a lot of kids in the neighborhood at a few different homes. And so I made a lot of extra cash starting at 12 as a babysitter. When I was 16, I got my first job with I'm paying taxes at McDonald's, which I was there for a year. I did drive-through. I'm from Southern California, so a lot of the Mexicans there kind of adopted me as their little white girl that they would call me. Their nickname for me was Sarita. And they taught me
what?
Sarita means little Sarah. Sarita.
Oh, I thought you said Slutnita. I was like, the podcast just went into a new rating.
Sarita, S-A-R-I-T. And so they actually taught me. I took Spanish in high school, so I had some Spanish, but they taught me how to speak more Spanish, and they actually taught me how to take orders. So I could take orders and exchange money in Spanish. So it was a good skill to have, and I was in the drive-thru most of my career, and then I became a crew trainer there. And so I was training all the new crew as well on the front end and the drive-thru. So that was my first real job. My first big girl job was in a call center for a catalog. So those catalogs that are annoyingly in the mail. I worked as a temp for Drapers and Damons, which is a clothing line that a lot of senior citizen ladies like to wear. Worked there for a few months, and then the season was over, so they laid us off because we were temps. And that's when I started at Home Depot. And I worked as Home Depot, became a head cashier, but I also wanted a second job, and my friend worked at an assisted living and got me a job at the assisted living. I then got fired from Home Depot, actually, because they were on a star system. And so if you're like late for work, you get a star. If you have more than your 3 sick days, you get a star. And I don't even remember why I got fired, but there was something about the stars. But anyways, so I was 19, 20. I started working at the assisted living, and I hated it. Hated it with a passion. Because it wasn't the residents. I loved actually doing the care, and I loved working with the residents. But they had us, I worked in the mornings, and they had us getting people out of bed, Hoyer lifts, I mean, you name it, all kinds of people with all kinds of issues. Getting them out of bed, getting them up. There were some showers we needed to do before breakfast, but we had to be in the dining room because we were also the waitresses at 7:30. So it's a 6 to 3 shift, and then you're 7:30 in the dining room. You're like, I have an hour and a half to get these people out of bed, and if there's only 2 of us that showed up for work that day, it was just an impossible task. So I actually saw an ad. I'd actually started school for becoming a medical assistant. And in the board in our kitchen at my school, I saw an ad for Maxim Healthcare, and they wanted home caregivers. And they also had some medical assistant staffing. So it would be like a doctor's office that needed a medical assistant to help with back office stuff if they were understaffed that day. So I started working in home care as a private one-on-one caregiver. And I did that for about a year. And then I wanted a little bit, I had so many hours. I said yes to all kinds of shifts. So I was getting 60, 70, 80 hours of care a week and just racking in the dough. But that was before the labor law changed for care. So you didn't have to pay overtime. So you could just give your caregivers as many hours as they wanted to work. I even had some overnight shifts where I could sleep and get paid hourly. It was a sweet job. So my hours got cut. And they had new managers that came in, and they didn't know me. So I wasn't the scheduler's yes man anymore because they were new schedulers. And so I didn't have as many hours. So I went to another agency for home care to do the same thing. And they needed a receptionist slash caregiver. So I became a receptionist and a caregiver. And then I also took on call for them to get a little extra cash. And then from having the on-call, when their intake coordinator left, I became their intake coordinator and recruiter. So then I was doing basically all the stuff in the office, and that's when I changed my major from nursing to business because I liked the business side of it. And then that job is what grew my home care, home health career, because then I went on to be a customer service rep at a skilled nursing agency working with more skilled nursing things. And then I was an ops manager and then a regional ops manager. And I just grew and grew and grew. Similarly to your story, as you know, when you were younger, you did all kinds of things for free. My job in home health, that really catapulted my career, where I went from being a client service rep to an ops manager at a branch to a regional operations manager for 7 locations, and then a regional billing and operations manager. That really catapulted my career. I never once got a raise, worked for $15 an hour the entire time because the company was very struggling to get ahead and to get out of debt and in the black. So they didn't have any raises. So I got all kinds of promotions with no raise, but God knew what he was doing, because that 3.5 years built my resume to get me more and more jobs, with higher and higher pay.
I just think about my life and how amazing God
has. You can look back and see how God had his hand in the story and where it really set you up. And the jobs you every year, every job, every situation in life you can pull from your experience.
Well, I mean, people want it like people want to believe my life. Like I wish I would could be able to go back in time and show my life to the doctor that told my family that I would never amount to anything because of my CP. Like I was a disability rights advocate where I sat down with senators. I've met 3 different governors. I've been in Capitol session meetings on important bills like Obamacare and stuff like that. Like I went from not being able to get a job to having this amazing career inside and outside of ministry and advocacy, and it just blows me away that like.
And it made you a non-judgmental human being too. So it all helps. Like God has a design for all that we do. So our careers aren't necessarily separate from our life with God. You know, everything that we do, and you're going to have crappy days at work, and you're going to have, at the end of the day, sure, go home, maybe cry on the couch. Hopefully you don't take it out on your family. Maybe hopefully they're supportive and then you can just cry, or hey, let's watch Below Deck.
Yeah. Well,
completely off of it. So, we're going to have those bad days, but at the end of the day, even in our career, we work for God. So that's where we have to it's his kingdom. Everything that we have is his. And so that's why we have to really take care of it. Anyways, so I do have one more little thing. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
What is the oddest food that is currently in the fridge?
Oh God!
Do you even know what's in the fridge? I went shopping.
No, probably some weird ass hummus or something that I'll never eat. She's always trying to push healthy eating on me, and I just
I love the food that I eat. I eat very healthy. I was diagnosed with diabetes. I had been pre-diabetic for a couple years, and I crossed that line with sugary beverages. I do typically eat healthier, but I was doing too much sugar I was on big projects at work, and I was just drinking juice and drinking Coke. It was stupid, and I should have known better. But anyways, got my sugars under control. But I really do actually look forward to eating a lot of the things that we eat. I would say the oddest thing that we have in the fridge right now that probably not a lot of people have. You're right. It's probably my olive hummus. And we also have, it's good. It's so good, especially with bell peppers or with celery. But anyways, carrots. But I can't eat carrots right now because there's too many carbs. Anyways, probably the number one thing that is probably a little more rare is the tzatziki sauce dip. And I think you liked the tzatziki. Did you like the tzatziki sauce that we had in the Greek bowl I made the other day?
I'm sorry, I totally zoned out. I don't what I.
You like the tzatziki sauce?
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I went into La La Land. I was thinking about something else. I don't know.
You would have to deal with. Sometimes I'll just say, "Did you hear me?" I think the tzatziki sauce, I would say, is the oddest thing in the fridge. And it's
I was thinking about
tzatziki sauces. It's the sauce you put on your a gyro or a gyro.
But
it's a dip.
I have a love-hate relationship with our refrigerator because the way our kitchen is set up, it fits by a windowsill. That every time I go to get in the freezer, the windowsill slams the door back on my face, and you'll say, "Hey, baby, give me a Klondike bar or something," and I go to grab one thing, and 3 other items fall out on my face. So
you just have to hold the stool over, open the freezer, be sitting on your stool, and then hold it with your leg.
Yes, I do that.
And then reach in with your good arm and get the thing.
I do that. I do check, and more check. And still stuff falls out on me.
You always know when he's in the freezer because you hear this stuff falling out. I'm like, it's not even on that shelf. Yeah. I know what it is by what it sounds like when it falls most of the time. Anyway. Okay.
Yeah. So I think this has been the first good episode of Topical Saturdays. I don't know if we're going to keep that name. That's the name I had for Craps and Giggles. So if our audience
it took your brain just a second to translate the original term.
Yeah. So if our audience out in Limping For Jesus land have a better name for our Saturday show, email us. I'm all for it. So this upcoming week, I just want to remind you guys that for my fellow theological nerds, I do a Wednesday night Bible study every Wednesday night on YouTube and on Facebook at 7 p.m. So you get that. And then every Saturday is our topical episodes that Sarah and I are going to do. Now, um, some future casting going on. I'm working on several interviews of ex cult members that grew up in the IFB cult, Independent Fundamental Baptist. There's a big documentary right now on HBO Max called Let Us Pray, P R A Y, talking about the scandal in the IFB church. But I actually made a connection on TikTok of a husband and wife who the wife grew up in that setting and escaped it. So that is coming up too. But I am so excited. If you're new to our ministry and our story, please subscribe to our YouTube. We are on every platform you can think of. We are on. You can listen to the audio on Spotify. You can listen to it on Apple. You can even see, we're on so many apps. I'm blanking on them.
Facebook, YouTube,
Yeah.
Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, we're on TikTok. I do devotional videos on TikTok. I'm actually doing it behind the scenes right now as we record on TikTok live. But on TikTok right now, I do reaction to like cringy pastor videos. I do devotionals. Right now, I'm going through what's called the New City Catechism. 60-second videos to help you know core Christian beliefs, to help you in your faith. So go follow us at TikTok. This podcast, this ministry, it has been a grind. I started with my phone.
And for anyone that thinks that we make millions of dollars off of this stuff, I would love to see those checks.
Yeah,
it's been we pay. We don't make any money off of this. We do it because we love Jesus and we want to help people. And we have self-funded it all. Technology, tools, subscriptions to software, gas to go out and do different things, like everything that any kind of an expense we have paid for. And that's whenever we boost a post or we say anything, we get the trolls be like, oh, you're just in it for the money. Anyone in ministry will laugh at that, right? Like, okay, sure. Lots of money.
I got paid a couple years ago. I got paid more money doing comedy, $5, than I did ministry. So please, like we said, if you want to be a part of this community, subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on all our socials, help us. Our whole goal with this ministry and podcast is to help people trust God in hard circumstance. Our motto here is to help people limp well for Jesus, because we are all limping somehow, rather physically, emotionally, spiritually. So we want to help you trust God in those hard things, because we know that church culture cannot be saved sometimes. But we want to help you see that there is safety and love and support in Christianity, that you can trust God, that life can suck, but God is always good. So that is why we are doing Limping for Jesus. And that is my heart as a pastor, my heart as a fellow journeyman and follower of Jesus, who lives with issues like depression and cerebral palsy, that it can come times that you just want to give it all up. That church don't seem like you should do it. I can't do the God thing. We get that, and we understand that we are in a generation of Christians who are deconstructing their faith because of stuff like that. So there's
a lot of narcissism in the church. I'm part of a pastor's wife's group that talks a lot about that, and it's been great. There's a lot of people in our generation I would believe Generation X and lower, so millennials, Gen Zers, etc. That really know, like, narcissist is a big buzzword, right? And everyone who gets in a disagreement calls everybody a narcissist. But there is a lot of narcissism in church. There are pastors that give up behind the pulpit because they feel that they're gods, and they're treated like such. And not saying, that it's everybody by any means. There are good churches out there, loving churches. You might not have, maybe you've gone to many in your area and you haven't found one that's really loving. But that doesn't mean that has anything to do with who Jesus is and who God is, and to have the Holy Spirit in you and to go by the teachings of Jesus and following Jesus in your life. You don't necessarily, and I know I'm going to get blasted. You don't need to go to church every Sunday to have that element of it. Should you find a loving church that you can attend and be part of the body? Absolutely. But if it's not your thing and you are like, I can't do the church thing. I've been in that place. I've visited many churches, wasn't finding ones that I really felt like I was called to be at. There were a lot of a lot of judgments, or it was too churchy words. I couldn't really understand it. I wanted more of a heartfelt, teach me the principles in layman's terms instead of trying to get up there and look smart. Those kinds of things. People don't go to church for those reasons. And if you're one of those people that are like, I just can't do church, okay. But you can do Jesus. You can open a Bible. You can get online and watch different ministries that have content. I just encourage those people to, just because the human beings on this planet have made you say, I can't do this God thing, don't blame that on God. Humans are broken.
Yeah, and
going to be broken humans.
It would be a privilege if Limping for Jesus is your tipping your toe back into Christian content. We are excited to join you on that journey.
And message us and let us know, like, what you don't like about church. What was your experience?
Yeah.
What happened to you in your church setting? We care. We want to help you through it, and to really trust me. I know we've been, and so does Mike. We've been through many a church hurt, either ourselves or helped others with that. And we also, Mike talks to different church leaders as part of something that he does in teaching about disabilities and ministering to people with disabilities. And so when we talk to church leaders, we take that feedback that we get from you guys. Yeah. And we're able to, when we have one-on-one conversations with our friends, either in ministry or not in ministry, we have that common knowledge of these different situations and stuff. And we talk about in our pastor wives groups as well. Like, what do congregations and congregants say about these different situations and what happens and why they leave, or etc. It matters. You matter to God. Jesus loves
we did get an email. We did get one email. And I wanted, and it's crazy that we got it this week. A person asked me, Pastor Mike, what is the best Bible translation I should buy for my 17-year-old child? And I'm going to say that thank you for emailing me that question, and I would get your kid a Bible that's called the New Living Translation Bible. You can get it in a study Bible form or a life application Bible.
The Bible that I really like, and there was a question like that on the Pastor Wives group, and my mom actually got me a Candace Cameron Bure Bible. It's called the Helping Bible, or the One Choice. I don't remember, but if you look up Candace Cameron Bure's Bible, it's very, very, it's an NLT translation. And it also has a lot of topics about different things that come up. And it has like a helper's guide. So at the back of it, do I have my Bible near me right now? No, it's on the other side of the room. It has a little section in the back with all these different topics, such as like some of the things that we pull, and all of the different Bible verses in Old Testament, New Testament, of where you can find the verses that tie to that topic.
Yeah.
So if you're talking to someone about grief, well, here's every topic that addresses grief in the Bible, and it gives you the verses, and it's an NLT. So if someone is young, or newer believer or seeking, and if you want to give a gift or you want to buy someone a Bible, I would highly recommend that one because it's really helped me. I have Mike's ESV study Bible that he gave me for our first Christmas, and he has the same one, but I have a pastor husband that can also study with me. So, but for self-study and for looking up different things, it's like, oh my gosh, my friend just called me and she's having a problem with X. Well, I can go look that topic up in the helper guide, and it gives me all kinds of different verses. So I know like how to bring scripture into the conversation. So it's a super, super great Bible.
The NLT also a couple years ago put out this Bible for a younger generation, 14 to like 25, called the Way. This is called the Way Bible. You can still get it on the internet, on Amazon. It has articles written by young Christians on the text. So if you get this Bible for your 17-year-old student, they're going to be reading people their ages takes on verses. So a Bible like this is real good because here's the deal, and I wish more pastors got this. I wish more churches got this. That because I have a preferred Bible translation that I personally read, study, and preach from. However, you want the truth to be made clear, and as the English language evolves, and most people do not want to read. So the fact that they want to get in the Bible at all is a miracle. And you don't want people being tripped up over archaic language and Bible needs.
Yes.
So I'm a theology nerd. I like those Bible needs terms. They're important, but that's my job as a pastor.
I don't.
To teach people what. Yeah, I know, but let me get this out before I forget. So I like teaching people theology, but in life application with younger people or new believers, you want to give them a Bible translation that they can understand, that God can speak to them in the language that they get and they live with every day. That's why the art of Bible translation constantly is evolving every 10 to 15 years because it got to evolve with the speaking language around them. So yeah, I'm not trying to get into the King James Version controversy. Yeah.
Well, you have like a King James, and there are people that love it, and good for them. And then you have the NLT or an NIV or a Standard Christian or whatever. Like, if you, for me personally, if there's only one church in their King James, and I go there and I don't have a clue as to what they're saying, or they use words that are just like, oh my God, I don't use that in my everyday life.
Someone, by the way, someone on TikTok said Candace Bure's podcast is amazing.
It is, yeah.
It is. I watch it
Her
sometimes.
Bible is amazing. The things that she does for Christianity is truly amazing. So I love all of the things that she puts out.
The hate that she gets is outrageous.
And she doesn't care.
She's probably the most unproblematic Christian in Christianity today. Now her brother Kurt kind of is more hardcore with street preaching and the Way of the Master tapes and stuff like that. I can understand why people get irked at him because even here's what I love about Cameron and Kurt, that they are they are unapologetic about their faith, and they love people no matter who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what.
So anyway, back to the thing. So I grew up, but I grew up in a Methodist church. But as an adult, when I came to come to Jesus, I went to Saddleback Church, Rick Warren's church, and he, when he preaches, uses multiple versions of the Bible. He chooses, based on the point that he's trying to make, he chooses a few different translations, and he'll read the different translations and pick the least Christianese words that are more layman, so that the general audience, non-believers, seekers, mature Christians, everybody across the board will be able to understand it. But he also preaches towards people that tend to not be believers. So that's how he's formatted his church. Now, so to me personally, if there was only the King James that existed, I might not have the relationship I have with God and might not know him as much. But I have
if you
an
can't
NLT
understand, if
Yeah.
you can't understand his word, you're not going to apply his
Right.
word.
So
And
for me, NLT, and so I know a lot of theologians and people that study the Bible, and they tend to judge people that like the NLT as like not Christian. I'm sorry. I consider myself a pretty secure Christian, and I know Jesus's heart, and that is who I love, his heart and our Savior. And the NLT helped me get there. So
well, yeah, I mean, I try not to, but I get into these Bible translation debates with other pastors all the time because I have seen what legalism in Bible translation has done to people's faith. I once had a young man come to I once had a young man come to the porch of my parsonage with his King James Bible, crying because it was forced into his head that even if he can't understand it, it's the only good Bible. And he was crying. He's like, "How can I obey something that I don't understand? I'm not a good reader." I gave him, and I gotta say, there were years where I was anti NLT. I wanted King James. Never was I King James only. But I was militant about a Bible to be word for word. But what I learned through the years of
I think I
loving,
helped you learn the NLT too.
no, I knew the NLT, but I use the NLT more now officially for ministry purposes because of you, and I mean, because the moment I gave this guy an NLT Bible, it took him about a week. He called me back crying. He said, "I understand this," and it changed his life. Oh man, try not to burp on camera. I don't think it's gonna. Okay,
Me
chili.
actually before we got on.
Yeah, I regret my life choices, guys. I really do. I'm having GERD right now, but okay. So if you can't understand God's word, you're not going to be able to apply it. The Holy Spirit is not limited by the King James Version, guys. He can speak through someone through the NLT, the NIV, the ESV, which is my team. But I just want
I
to.
don't mind the ESV or the NIV either. I love the NLT. I think that it's very simplified.
Well, I gotta
But
be honest.
the NIV and the ESV aren't bad.
The ESV can be bulky in some passages.
Yeah.
The way they structure the phrases, but. So yeah, for our that was a long-winded answer to one email, but I just want to thank you for your email, guys. I want to thank you for spending time with us on this Saturday. I'm rocking my Heinz Ward jersey because I can't believe the Steelers made the playoffs. The game is going to be on Sunday at 1. I think we're playing Buffalo. We're in Buffalo. The weather should be I could be bad that day, I heard, but I mean I don't know how far we're going to make it in the playoffs, but I wanted to rock my Steelers jersey for today's first Topical Saturday podcast. I hope that you enjoy. If you want us to cover any topic, I would encourage you to become a virtual producer. Join our Patreon. It's only $5 a month. So skip out on one Starbucks coffee, I guess, and give it to us. And look, I didn't even use the rapture to scare you into giving me money.
And we are working on just it's kind of behind the scenes, and we haven't really made a lot of announcements, but for anybody watching our podcast, we are working on our nonprofit status as well. We do want to be able to fund the ministry, and we also want to be able to do a lot of things that help others and have funds and relief funds, and to also be able to have the right equipment and the stuff to really produce better and things like that. So we're working on nonprofit status so that we have
merch. We're working on merch.
Yeah. So we're working on a lot of things, but the nonprofit status will allow us to receive tax deductible donations. We have received a few donations, small ones. Like I said, we don't make money on this by any sense of the word, but they are not tax deductible at the current time. So we are working on nonprofit status so that we can offer that, but that we can also do other things that nonprofits can do for helping the community. So we are looking forward to that, hopefully in 2024, but we shall see what God has in store for us.
Yeah. I want to think it's amazing that we've been going for 1 hour and 40 minutes. My wife had not taken one pee break. And I
drank the entire 40 ounce. This is not a Stanley, by the way. Yeah. I refuse to get a Stanley. Okay. I would love a Stanley because I actually had one of their old fashioned thermoses, but because people are going absolutely, crazy on the Stanley stuff, and I am not paying $75 for a mug just so I can have a status symbol. This is a reduced mug. It is $19.99, and it does.
Well, I don't understand how they got so popular. There was a TED Talk the other day of a 7-year-old girl got one for Christmas, and she was crying like she just got the new PlayStation 5. It's a mug. It's a cup.
Okay, so I actually read an article. You know why? Okay, because I love all things that are business, so I read a lot of business stuff. Okay, so it's actually the new CEO. Well, I don't know if he's new, but he's the CEO, and maybe he's the global chief marketing. I don't remember. Anyway, he's some C-suite executive. It might be the CEO. Stanley's been around since like 1910 or 1919.
Yeah, they used to be those green.
Yes, they were made for men. Yes, they were made for men.
Sorry, trauma.
Well, maybe not men, but they were made for people that worked in a factory or went to have to 12, 14-hour day where they needed a big thing of coffee or camping or whatever. Yeah. They're the big, giant, bulky things that keep your coffee or hot cocoa or soup warm for like 3 days or whatever it was. Yeah. I might be exaggerating. Anyway, so this, I guess they came out with a couple of Stanley mugs. Like they had just created a couple of designs, and a popular women's blog went viral with this mug. And so the marketing, the guy, and this is why marketing matters. The CEO, I think it's the CEO. There's articles out there you can go read, but they had $79 million a year in sales. Okay. And then he realized that this marketing blog went viral a few times with the Stanleys. And so they made a bunch of different colors and marketed it to all that was women. Women blogs, women things. They just marketed it all to women in colors that they like and designs that they like. And
they're going with Starbucks, right? On the popular one?
They had Starbucks. They did a few different brand Stanleys. They marketed like crazy. And in like 1 year time, they took their business from 79 million in sales to 750 million in sales.
I can't wait
because they changed their marketing strategy from factory, hey, take your mug to keep your coffee hot at work, to, hey, have your water that you need throughout the day. And oh, by the way, it's 40 ounces and this is going to stay ice cold for 24 hours. This does too, but it does leak a little. So it's not like a Stanley, but it's almost. These insulated tumblers were really popular anyway because of water and.
I can't wait for weird rapture uncles to start preaching that the Stanleys are a symbol of the Antichrist. It always happens.
Stanley's the Antichrist. There you go. We found
I don't know why it happens every couple of years. There's a weird TikTok Christian influencer who will fixate on Starbucks cups. Years ago, it was they took Christmas trees off their cups and made them red, and people were saying that they were taking Christ out of Christmas. Homies, if Starbucks changing their cups trips you up in your faith, you have a whole lot more problems. Probably mental illness. I joke, but I just want to thank everyone for spending the time with us. And until next time, keep limping for Jesus. God bless.
God bless.